Common Knowledge is brought to you by PureMTGO.com and InkedGaming.com. Use coupon code CCMTG10 at checkout for a 10% discount on all Inked Gaming supplies and accessories. You can support the show directly through Patreon at patreon.com/common knowledge.
This is the Common Knowledge Podcast. It's not about the cost, it's about the knowledge. Here are your hosts, Brandon Clark and Lobbert.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to M20 76. Kamanamana. I'm your host, Brandon. Joined with me is the Sean the Lobbert. Okay. That was the...
We're rolling with it, I guess. Okay.
We don't have time to do it again. Oh man, I'm tired. It's been a long week. How about you?
Well,
It's probably been a longer week for you.
Yeah. Over the past months, we've missed a couple episodes, but it's all been for we're moving and there's just a lot going on. But I think we're getting caught up. M20's been out for a little bit.
Well, it's also we keep getting behind because of all these big announcements that are happening. Big shakeups have been happening in the format, and it's just we haven't done power rankings in 2 months because
it
was banning, Modern Horizons dropped, and we're okay, we'll start collecting data on that. And then it was 2 weeks later, unification happened, and we're all right, well, we're just gonna, I guess we'll do power rankings next month. And
then it's been 3 set reviews.
Oh yeah, we've had so we're doing another set review tonight. So
yeah, we're doing M20. But I don't know. I feel like I wanted to do a little announcement of just we may miss weeks, and we're I'm not really sorry, but I would rather us miss weeks than just stop. And we have to be able to balance this in our lives. So we're sorry, but that's gonna happen. We're gonna miss weeks.
Well, also, I'd rather miss a week than have you or I try to do this half.
Mm-hmm.
There's just sometimes where I'm just between school and work and everything else, I'm just overwhelmed. I can't do it. This past week, Sean was moving, and it was just yeah. So we try not to miss. We don't want to miss, but we also, 1, don't want to overexert ourselves, and 2, don't want to give you guys mediocre content. We want to make sure that we can kind of give as much as we can to the podcast.
Right. It's kind of an interesting trade-off I've found of we're always trying to improve the show, and it's made it so that if you go to the YouTube, every time we say a card, it's bringing it up on screen just to make it more accessible, make it more visually interesting. But that makes editing time, it almost doubles it. Not, it doesn't almost double. It's increased by about 50% when I'd have to do that.
Quadruples it. Quintuples it. Sean's working double overtime on this podcast, guys.
No, when I have to sync up my commentary to my gameplay, that quadruples that editing time. So producing that video was just a huge amount of work. Anyway, we're trying to make it better, and I would rather make that quality content than rush everything out and be right on the money.
Yeah, we'd rather not put something out that we're not happy with. And we've even done it before too, where we've scrapped shows. We record and we're just that was not good. Let's reschedule again. Let's reschedule and record again this week.
Yeah.
We've done that. We just were not happy with what we did, and we tried to do it again. I am going to step back a bit because I said guys. Well, no,
bad.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's a bad habit that I'm trying to break, but I know that we have female listeners, and I don't want to be like that. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna try my hardest not to say guys anymore. It's a really bad habit that I've had my whole life, and I'm trying to break it. But I just want to make sure I put that out there for everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was kind of a long intro. We got on our soapboxes here and there, but so we're gonna get off our soapboxes. We're gonna skip card of the week because it's a set review.
Main topic.
This is going to be a little different. We don't really have a top 5. M20 just kind of wasn't super loaded. There are a few things to keep an eye on, and so we're just going to kind of cover those. Why we think we should keep your eye on them, what makes them unique, etc.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have some deck techs for you guys. We're going to do a What Are We Playing segment since we've had these huge shakeups in our format. We're going to kind of take a minute to go over how Sean and I are feeling, where we're at with the format, and the decks that we are personally playing with.
Right, yeah. We need to start talking about the meta a little bit again.
Yeah. I feel like we haven't talked meta for like 2 months.
Yeah, well, it's good because we haven't really known exactly what was going on.
Since the days Gataxian Pro banning, I don't think we've covered anything like meta, but we finally have had a few weeks. Things are starting to settle down, and we've been able to start getting back into a groove.
Let's groove.
Yeah, let's groove it up. M20 set review. First card. It's the only white card on our list. It's Aerial Assault for 2 and a white. It's a sorcery. It says destroy target tap creature. You gain 1 life for each creature you control with flying.
It is a spell that is like dual purpose. I would expect the number to see in placements in tournaments to be about 0 forever. It's really narrow of like it's only creatures with flying you control, but removal spells in white.
That's less concerning because I think you can build your deck around that. You can put Battle Screeches and Core Skyfishers and Glinthawks and stuff in your deck, and like you could easily gain 4, 6, 7 life off this card. I think what makes it hard is that it only hits tapped creatures. So that means that like this creature's already attacked you and dealt you damage, or like potentially attacked and you blocked it with something. I mean, I don't know. I'm envisioning a scenario where you're like, oh, I'm going to die, so I have to chump block here, and then I can use my removal spell, and that feels bad.
Right, yeah. It's just not that great of a card, but it's, I think, the best white card we got, which is saying something. It's pretty bad.
Yep, I agree.
So our next card is Cloudkin Seeker. It is 2 and a blue for a 2/1 elemental wizard, and it has flying. It also has, when Cloudfin Seeker enters the battlefield, draw a card. This, I actually think, is one of the better cards in the set. Like, its body is, like, 1 toughness is usually bad, but it's getting an actual card when it enters the battlefield. It has that evasion. It can kill your opponent quickly if you need. Like, I was envisioning something with the emerge creature, Wretched Griff, or something that you could play around with in blue. I don't know, like, it does seem powerful enough to actually do something and cheaply enough costed.
Yeah, I think that there are 2 things that put this card just outside of playability. I think that between it being 3 mana and having 1 toughness, it's just outside the bar. Whereas if it was 2 mana, I think it would be playable, like very playable. Or if it had 2 toughness. Like, if either of those things were the case, like, it either costed 2 or it was a 2/2, I think this card would be quite playable. But the fact that it's 3 mana and 1 toughness, both those things just barely put it out of playability range.
Then I actually feel like it's on the other side of the line. I think it's just playable. Like, I could see this being in something with Ephemerate, Core Skyfisher. I think it's going to be the only 1 toughness creature in your deck, so that kind of makes the like trickery argument a little bit more null, because if it's the only one, then it's not that big of a bad thing. Like, if it trades with your opponent's fairy, I don't really care that much.
I guess that's fair too. And I mean, who's playing fairies anymore? So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe this is just barely playable. Either way, definitely the best blue card. Maybe even the best card out of the set.
Yeah, it's pretty up there. Do you want to read the competition for this card?
Yeah, so the other blue card that we've got on our list is Winged Words. 2 and a blue for a sorcery. The spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a creature with flying. And it says draw 2 cards. So it's a divination on its face. And then if you have a flyer, it's a really good divination.
Yeah, I do think that this gives the other card a run for its money. I think that it's still castable when you don't have a creature with flying. If you've been able to drop a 1 mana flyer, then turn 2, you're drawing 2 cards straight up. And that's pretty good. I think this is also playable. I won't expect it to.
So this card kind of reminds me of Discovery something. Oh geez, Chart a Course. In standard right now, which is 2 mana, draw 2, discard a card unless you dealt combat damage or attacked with a creature or something like that.
Okay.
This card reminds me of that, where like you're incentivized to have cheap, low-cost creatures that you can play on turn 1, and then your turn 2 play, is Winged Words, and then you're untapping on turn 3 with all these cards in your hand, and all of your spells cost like 1 mana, and
yeah, it does encourage good deck building of flying creatures that are cheap, and it's not like it's uncastable if it's not. So I definitely think we're gonna see some number of this card being played, at least in testing. Like I think that people that are trying to see if that deck can get any better, like in the mono blue or Scred Delver decks, I think that they're going to be trying it out, and I think that it's very possible that it could work.
It could potentially have more upside in decks like that than cards like Accumulated Knowledge.
Yeah, the first one's better. The second one's...
The first one's really not good if you're playing Accumulated Knowledge Mirrors.
Yeah, the other spell is instant, which I think in our Facebook discussion was like a big point that a lot of us were like, like that's a really good point. You want an instant speed spell even if it's not as impactful early. But another thing that got brought up is you don't have to run 4 of these. With Accumulated Knowledge, you're always running all 4. So if you wanted to play 2 or 3 winged... Yeah.
So, I think there are a lot of upsides to this card. Obviously, like, you can talk about the best case scenarios of Accumulated Knowledge where you're like, drawing 4 cards and stuff, and like, but I think that Winged Words is kind of consistently fine, whereas Accumulated Knowledge is like scales from like mediocre to incredible. Like it's either like on those ends of the range, whereas Winged Words is sort of more in the middle, a little more consistent, just sort of like a jack of all trades, just is very average at doing what it does well, I'm
gonna bring it up. The floor is definitely higher on this card because it doesn't matter if they have Graveyard Hate. It doesn't matter if they want to kill your creature in reaction.
Copies of this card in their deck too, which is like a stupid sub game to play when you have Accumulated Knowledge in your deck.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Your plays Island, and you're just like,
do you got it?
Could they have that in their deck?
Yeah. So the blue cards are actually bringing it here for M20. Good job, M20. Although there's only 2 of you.
All right.
So I'll take the next one.
Yeah, we're on to black.
We have Audacious Thief. It is 2 and a black for a 2/2 human rogue. It says, when Audacious Thief attacks, you draw a card and lose 1 life. I'm going to say any kind of, I don't know, I want to say Ash Zealot, the Black Zealot, or Phyrexian Rager, those types of effects. Those are definitely always going to be better than this. This is repeatable, but the floor is lower since you don't know if you're actually going to get that first card or not. So, and like if you can't attack with this, or attacking with it would just be death if they have a 2/3 or something, it just doesn't work. So
it's really, really too bad this card's not a ninja. Like, it doesn't have to have ninjutsu, but if it was just a human ninja instead of a human rogue, we could play this with Smoke Shroud. Oh, I'd love that. That'd be sweet. As it is, though, like, I'm not super big on this card because of the reasons where you just kind of stated. Like, it's not guaranteed that you're even going to get 1 card off of this. A lot of times in this format, like, this format, we have Core Skyfishers, we have Clint Hawks. I don't know, is trading this for a random card on the top of your deck worth it when... I just don't know. Maybe it is.
I'm going to say it's just flat not, but it's one of those cards where it's like, this is neat. I want to tell my viewers about this, but I don't think I don't think anybody's going to play it.
It's definitely the best black card.
Well, let's compare.
Sean might disagree with me. Sean probably likes this card a lot. I'm not high on this card, but our next card is Agonizing Siphon. It's 3 and a black for a sorcery. Deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. So it's a 4 mana Lightning Helix.
Yeah, that's exactly what this card is. I don't like it. The cost is just super, super steep.
I think that if you're in the business of playing 4 mana Lightning Helixes, put cheap creatures in your evasive creatures in your deck, and then cast the Prowl one.
Which one is that?
It's like the rogue tribal Prowl spell. Except I think the difference is that spell goes to face. It can't do any target. Maybe it can do any target, but it's 4 mana and it has a Prowl cost of 2, 1 and a black, to Lightning Helix a player, I believe.
Yeah, there also is one, just the bite. It's like Sovereign's Bite or something.
Yeah, Sovereign's Bite is just already a thing.
Yeah, it doesn't do it to creatures.
Yeah, same though. Can't only targets players. So like this does target a creature, but there's just better removal spells for this.
Right. Like I really don't think you want to be pointing a spell like this at a creature. I feel like that means you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you just should go all out. And if you're going to be putting something like this in your deck, like there's also just like specialized things like Tendrils of Corruption or stuff like that is going to pack way more of a punch if you just have to have more swamps. So I actually do think Audacious Thief is our best black card.
All right.
Yep.
Let's talk about the best red card in the set.
Okay.
Only card on our list.
It is Destructive Digger. It is 2 and a red for a 3/2 goblin. It has 3 tap, sack an artifact or land, draw a card. Good things going for this is its power matches its CMC, so it can win you the game if the path is clear. It doesn't sacrifice itself when it draws the card, so you can trade off, one of your artifacts, ideally like an Ichor Wellspring. You could be playing this in like a goblin, like a Kuldotha goblin deck, and that would be like okay. Overall, though, it's probably not ever going to activate. This just has like a big kill me target on its back, right?
Yeah.
Complete lightning rod to its own. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Downfall, sure.
It's a lightning rod to its downfall.
Yep.
You heard it here, folks. There's a little common knowledge for you.
No, it's just like it doesn't like. There's lightning rods that when they die they do something, and that's very good. There's also lightning rods.
Lightning rods that like the upside on them is so high that when they live, they run away with the game. But then
this is like a
kind of like whatever.
Yeah, middle of the road.
Sure, you gave me a target for my removal spell. Thank you. Or I didn't have a removal spell. This probably is not a super huge threat right now.
Yep.
Maybe if I let it just run rampant for like a couple turns. I don't know. I mean, I think that you can definitely abuse it with like artifact synergies. But
yeah,
it's still slow. It's kind of clunky. 3 is a lot of mana.
Slow and clunky is definitely how I'd describe this. Like, getting rid of your extra lands, okay. Activating your artifacts, and that's neat. But at the end of the day...
the Galaxy Brain is sacking your Ichor Wellspring, right?
That's funny.
What?
It's just the meme reference.
Well, I think we've said it before that the whole reason we do this show is to meme. I mean, Spencer did call us the most meme value of any of the shows in his network.
That was like a year ago now.
I know.
I still think about it pretty often.
It's probably one of the best compliments I've ever received.
Yeah, I'll say the same. Do you want to move on?
Yeah. All right, we're into green. There's a lot of green cards, and by a lot, I mean 4. I don't necessarily believe that any of these cards are necessarily even better than some of the ones we've already talked about, but a few of them are kind of okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our first card is Healer of the Glade. It is a single green for a 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life.
I think that this card does have potential. Like, I think in a deck like Stompy, where against burn you want to assemble an attacking force that can close out the game quickly while keeping your life total high enough to compete. This being a creature does allow for you to abuse it with things like Tortured Existence. I don't honestly think that this is going to see much play in Tortured Existence since Golgari Brownscale is just already in the deck. But my point is more just like having life gain on a very, very cheap creature is abusable with cards that can get creatures and stuff like that. And dude, 1/2. Look at that toughness.
Get him with the 1/2. The old 1/2 healer of the glade. Alright, do you want to talk to us about Brightwood Tracker?
Yeah, Brightwood Tracker is 3 and a green for a 2/4 Elf Scout, and it has the ability of 5 green tap. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is kind of similar to Vivian's Grizzly, except that it can't be activated the turn that it comes out. I have seen Vivian's Grizzly in elf decks more than once from different players. I was playing the Elf Mirror because we decided to try to do elves for our deck of the month. And
2 months ago now?
I got my teeth kicked in by somebody who was running the Grizzly. I don't think that this being an elf really helps more than just running the Grizzly would. But it's aight. It's aight.
I think that the Grizzly is just strictly better in almost every way, with the exception of the toughness and how many cards you get to look at. Right?
It's worse in that it's not an elf, but I think that it's outweighed so much by just what that Grizzly does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So our next card is Prized Unicorn, 3 and a green. All creatures able to block Prized Unicorn do so, and it's a 2/2.
This is more like just like a heck, it's about time type of thing.
Yeah, because we just don't have this effect.
We have it. We have like Taunting Elf, which is just single green for a 0/1 that has the same ability. I think if you're going to do this in green, it has the potential to be like a green board wipe. You attack with this, you put Vines of Vastwood and a Rancor on it or something like that, and kill 10, 6, 10, whatever toughness worth of creatures.
Yeah, or you just like win a board stall. Like you both have a bunch of creatures, a bunch of blockers. You attack with this, and you just probably hit for lethal. Because all of a sudden you have 5 unblockable creatures.
So there's also, we also have Sheenan of Life's Roar, which has the channel ability.
Yeah, tell our listeners what channel does, because maybe some of our listeners don't know what channel does. So
I have it up, just in case anybody was curious. I know you all know what it is, but
I'm sure everyone does, but just in case there's someone out there that has no clue what channel it is, but is assuming it comes from the Kamigawa block.
Yes.
Maybe just read it.
So I'm just going to read Sheenan of Life's Roar. It is colorless and a green for a 1/2 spirit. All creatures able to block Sheenan of Life's Roar do so. Channel, instead of casting it, you pay 2 green, discard it, and all creatures able to block target creature... What?
Which card it?
Discard it. You are the worst. But yeah, when you discard it, it gives its ability to another creature. So card disadvantage until you like wipe their board. A little different. I don't think Prized Unicorn is that good, but it's like it really is like only on this list because I was like, I've seen that card in play before, and people talk about Prized Unicorn, and now we have it in Pauper.
Nice. All right, last green card.
Best green card. Just kidding. It might be Healer of the Glade, but go ahead.
Silverback Shaman, 3 green for a creature ape shaman. Trample. When Silverback Shaman dies, draw a card, and it's a 5/4.
That is a pretty big body. 5 mana, 5/4. That's pretty good. Trample. That's even better. And when it dies, you draw a card. It's not gonna draw your card if they exile it somehow. But I think this is one of the more respectable green fatties that I've seen come to Pauper ever. It's Galvanic Blastable, but at advantage, and you can block it, but it's probably going to roll over or trade with whatever you're blocking with. I'm actually excited to try this out. Like, this is one of the cards I'm actively looking to put into play.
Okay. I've cast it a few times in Limited so far, and it feels good.
Yeah. But do you think that's better, or Healer of the Glade? It is kind of apples and oranges there.
It is kind of, so I'm like looking at Healer of the Glade, and I'm like, Healer Glade has very specific applications, and it's going to be great in those applications.
Mm-hmm.
Silverback Shaman is just a better card overall.
But we don't know how we're applying it.
Yeah, maybe it's not good enough for Pauper, even though I think on its face it's a better card. It's a more powerful card in a vacuum, but in the context of Pauper, it may be not that powerful, or maybe just doesn't have a place to go. And if Healer of the Glade ever has a place to go, it's going to do that one job that it has really, really well. Like, block, be a 1-drop, gain you 3 life, pull you a little bit ahead in the race or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Wear a Rancor. Have you considered that the apes of Yavimaya draw strength from the spirits of their ancestors?
That changes my entire argument. Like, my whole argument has just fallen flat. Silverback Shaman, best card out of M20. We don't even need to go over the last card on our set review.
We really don't.
Yeah, we're done. Cancel the show. What more? How do we top Silverback Shaman?
This is the best card in the history of the show. We're just canceling the show flat out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, how do we ever top the apes of Yavimaya drawing strength from the spirits of their ancestors?
Well, I'll give it a shot with Heart Piercer.
We can handle spirit power of that magnitude.
It's going to be one heck of a spirit bomb.
It's probably over 9,000.
What 9,000?
All right, tell us about Heart Piercer Bow.
Heart Piercer Bow is 2 generic mana. It is an artifact equipment. When equipped creature attacks, Heart Piercer Bow deals 1 damage to target creature defending player controls, and its equip cost is only 1.
So this card is great because my opponents on Arena put it into their decks, and then spent their turn 2 playing it, and then they spend their turn 3 putting it onto their 2-cost creature and then equipping it, and then the rest of the game they can't do anything because I've put actual meaningful spells in my deck, and their 2/2 with a Heart Piercer Bow doesn't really want to trade itself for a damage.
Right. Yeah, I do think that I put this card on the list kind of as a cautionary tale of, like, the potential is huge of, like, that's infinite value. Just remove everything they ever play. Maybe you'll have 2 of these and be able to mow stuff down. So many people are conscious of, like, the 1 toughness rule, like, that they don't want to put that in their deck, that until you get 2 of them out, like 2 1 damage effects out, you're not doing anything with the card besides spending 3 mana or more if you have to equip it multiple times. So then you're just down 2 cards to maybe blow up 1 thing, and then they're prepared for it the next time. It really is terrible, but yeah, I just wanted to tell everyone that.
I mean, that's like the biggest problem with it is, at best, Heart Piercer Bow is helping you trade up at a tempo disadvantage. And like, when you think about the kind of cards in this format you're trading up with, you know, you're like putting it on your Glinthawk and trading up with their core Skyfisher, but it costs you 3 mana. And their core Skyfisher already got value.
But then again, that's optimal, even for that situation. You could attack, ping their creature, and then they just don't block. And
yeah, sure,
that's even worse.
You've done nothing. So like, I guess that's like kind of my point, is even the optimal situation, this card is still not great. Like,
yeah,
you traded up your creature for their creature at the cost of a lot of tempo. Because you spent an entire turn casting this spell, and then you've spent mana on your turn putting it onto your creature, not to mention the fact that, this card doesn't do anything to buff your creature's stats. So your opponent can very easily just remove your threat before it gets the chance to attack anyway.
Right. Viridian Longbow is just better.
Yeah, Viridian Longbow is just better because you can untap shenanigans.
But that was all of the cards. And
Every
most of them
card.
were...
This is the entire M20 set. That's all the cards.
Yeah, I think Battle Bond may have been better than this. I don't know.
Oh, Battle Bond. We were so disappointed in you.
Yeah, I was happy for like Peace Strider, but no one else was. And like that's why I'm like, okay, maybe it's not, but
oh boy.
Yeah, this is a very short list, and we were not happy with most of the cards on it.
Yeah, well, which is why we have a little more to our show this week. We're doing a quick "What Are We Playing" segment to round out this show before we say goodbye.
What are we playing?
We're just going to sort of talk about a little bit about where we're at in the metagame, what we're playing, why we've decided to play it, and just kind of talk briefly about our decks.
All right, you put yours first, so let's do yours first.
Yeah, first. We're saving the best for last, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I am playing Jeskai Astrolabe, which I think is one of potentially the best decks in the format currently. I think this deck abuses Arkham's Astrolabe, like, almost to its fullest potential. You're basically just playing, you have the core Skyfisher package, you're playing all the most powerful cards in your colors that you can, and let's just get into the deck list, I guess. But this deck is really good, in my opinion.
I'm nodding my head in agreement.
Yeah. All right, so for the lands, we have 20. I'm playing a split, 2 Evolving Wilds, 2 Terramorphic Expanse, because I believe it tilts Sean, even though Sean denies it.
That's all correct.
2 Ash Barons, which I might end up upping the Ash Baron count to 3, just because Ash Barons is so good now that Astrolabe is a card. I have played more Ash Barons than I've cycled recently, because I'm just getting to the point where I'm just like, I need all my mana this turn. I don't have time to cycle. Play Ash Barons, feed it into Astrolabe, have mana. It's like not a huge drawback anymore.
The context in which I'm saying no is in context of my deck, so I'll recant. I'll recant that.
Yeah. Then we just have a bunch of basic lands after that: 6 Snow Islands, 6 Snow Plains, 2 Snow Mountains, 4 copies of Arkham's Astrolabe. I almost said Austin's Astrolabe for some reason. 4 Carpies. 4 Arkham's Astrolabe. That's the only artifact. So I don't have Glint Hawk in my creature suite, which a lot of decks do. I'm just 4 Seeker of the Way, 4 Core Skyfisher, 3 Aven Rift Watcher, 3 Muldrifter, 1 Archaeomancer. So I'm going to actually go through the instance now and the sorceries, because that helps my creature suite make sense. So this is sort of the big part of my deck. I have 3 Ephemerates, 4 Counterspell, 1 Dispel, 2 Lightning Bolt, 4 Scred, 1 Fire Ice, 4 Preordains, and 2 Ponders. So this deck is like at its core an Ephemerate deck. Every single creature in this deck has insane amounts of value with Ephemerate. Archaeomancer plus Ephemerate is a pretty insane value engine, because you target whatever you want with your Ephemerate first. And then if you have Archaeomancer in play, when you rebound it, you target Archaeomancer. Ephemerate Resolves is in the graveyard, and then you can put it back into your hand with Archaeomancer's ability. Aven Rift Watcher is just a really powerful threat. It's a 2/3. It gains you 4 life on its face, 2 when it comes into play, 2 when it leaves. And then if you have Ephemerate with that, it's even more life, and you can bounce it with Core Skyfisher, so like it makes it really hard for aggressive decks to beat you, which I think is really important in this meta right now. I think aggressive decks are in the best place they've been almost ever in our format.
Right now?
Yes.
Okay.
because people are playing all these greedy Arkham's Astrolabe decks that have setup time, that stumble
Yeah.
on mana from time to time, that are playing much less disruption in the form of counterspells and removal than normal. And so I think that aggressive decks, like linear aggressive decks like Elves, Affinity, Stompy, are in a pretty good place right now to take advantage of the decks when they stumble.
I
That being said, I don't think they're favorable.
I have thoughts on this. What I've noticed from what the meta feels like right now is that there are different levels of the Arkham's Astrolabe deck, where there's like the Moldrifter Ephemerate versions that I think are favored against the more aggressive versions of Arkham's Astrolabe decks. The more aggressive Arkham's Astrolabe decks have a better matchup against those aggressive decks because they're not trying to play a freaking Moldrifter. But that is kind of rock paper scissors, but it's rock scissors scissors kind of like, since to me they're all
like decks are like the
yeah.
same. Yeah, but I'm thinking about like very linear aggressive decks like Elves, Affinity, Stompy. Like those decks can really punish the slower Astrolabe decks. Like if they ever stumble, because they're just games where like you don't find Astrolabe on time, or you just never draw your natural red source, and you're trying to get by on Seeker of the Way alone as your way to like stay ahead. And like if they just interact with Seeker of the Way, it's like, oh, I don't have a removal spell now, and I'm gonna get run over.
Yeah, I do.
And Core Skyfisher gets increasingly worse without Astrolabe, because you want to play it on turn 2 as a blocker, but if you don't have the turn 1 Astrolabe, you're bouncing a land, and now you're just really behind on that tempo, and you're back to playing one spell a turn. That being said, though, like these Astrolabe decks are still like really consistent from what I've seen. Even if they do stumble, their spells are all powerful enough that they do a good job of pulling back ahead. Like if they get behind, they can pull back ahead very easily. Especially, if they can get to the mid game, where they can just like Core Skyfisher helps a lot with this. Even Riftwatcher helps a lot with this. But yeah, if they can ever get to a point where they can double spell in a turn, they're going to start pulling ahead a lot.
Well, that's turn 3, right? Like, I guess, are you counting Astrolabe as a spell?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm thinking about like meaningful, like impactful spells. Like they get to a point where they're doing like.
Well, even if you don't count Astrolabe, it's still turn 3.
Yeah, even Riftwatcher plus, Scred, or like Core Skyfisher, bounce Astrolabe, Scred.
Yeah.
And then Astrolabe the next turn, kind of a thing. Yeah, so it's not hard for this deck to pull ahead. Like, even though I am saying that the aggressive decks are in a good position to take advantage of these decks when they stumble, I still don't necessarily believe that they're like very like super favored.
Yeah, it's just that aggressive decks have been in such a bad spot for so long that they have like a little bit of a chance lately, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I've played games where the Stompy player puts tons of power into play. My turn 2 play was like Seeker of the Way. And then my turn 3 play was like Astrolabe, Preordain, Scred, crack you for 5, gain 5. What are you doing now?
Yeah.
And they just have no way to interact with Seeker of the Way, and you just win the game. Then there's just like crazy, combos when you get into like those more mid-rangey games where you're playing against the more aggressive Astrolabe decks that are trying to like attack you with Glinthawk, and you just like play Core Skyfisher, play even Riftwatcher, play a Moldrifter, Ephemerate it, draw 4 cards.
Yeah, that combo of like Moldrifter, Ephemerate, you've drawn 4 cards, and then on the beginning of your next upkeep, you'll draw an additional 2, and so you just go up to like 10 cards in hand.
Yeah, it's insane. That said, I will say that like Ephemerate almost always is just a God's Willing in this deck. Like most of the time, there are those decks that struggle to interact, and in those cases, you're just mad running over them with value.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, like especially like Astrolabe Mirrors or against Boros, is the big one. Boros is the big one. Ephemerate is just like a really good God's Willing. You're trading Scry for the effect on your creature.
Yeah, it could be as good as draw 2 cards.
Yeah, or gain 4 life with Aven Riftwatcher when your
Yeah.
opponent tries to kill it. So it's a weird dance where your opponent has to be really careful about where they choose to throw their removal and how safe you need to be with holding up Ephemerate. Like if you feel like, okay, can I Ephemerate here, or am I going to get blown out, or am I saving it for their removal spell? And then I'll just talk about my sideboard super quick. So 2 Dispels, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 3 Lone Missionary, 2 Pyroblast, 2 Electricity, 1 Shenanigans, 2 Ancient Grudge, and 1 Weather the Storm.
Have you tested a whole bunch or a decent amount of Shenanigans yet?
I've played against Affinity twice, and I didn't try it.
Oh,
but
that's a shame.
Honestly, I probably don't need 3. Maybe I do. I don't know. Gorilla Shaman might be better than Shenanigans. I love Ancient Grudge right now. That card is really, really good.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Like, it's not difficult to just kill 2 things in a single turn with Ancient Grudge.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, of course he's going to have standard bearers in here. I'm surprised you don't have standard bearers in here.
Yeah, I don't. I probably should, though.
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think I had standard bearers in my original sideboard. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not really ever bringing standard bearers in to protect my creatures.
No, right.
And I feel like the matchups where standard bearer is good at disruption, this deck already does well at disrupting with like its removal and like Electricities come in. And so I just kind of didn't feel like I needed them, but I could be wrong and convinced otherwise. Like,
yeah.
I definitely have some flex slots between the Shenanigans and like the Weather the Storm.
Yeah, I'll agree. Yeah, I think that's right where I'm thinking you're at. And just I think it's just the amount of Boggles and Stompy that you that you plan on seeing.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of those things, so I'm packing 2.
Stompy's probably a good reason too. I haven't seen Boggles.
Oof.
I mean, I definitely don't play as much as you, but I just haven't been seeing Boggles. I've been seeing like Elves, Stompy, Affinity have been like the really aggressive decks I've played against.
Yeah, in my 32 games of testing with Boros Bully, I've seen it once.
Oh, okay.
So
but
yeah,
it's scary enough that you want something.
I would say definitely, yeah. It's pretty dang scary right now, I think.
Yeah, and like honestly, the Weather of the Storm is in there just because like I kind of want to test it out. I think this card is also very good in the Stompy matchup.
Oh.
Because sometimes like I have enough aggressive creatures. Sometimes all it takes is just like finding a way to pull ahead in the race, and they can just their turns where they're like if I just go turn 2 pass, like turn 1 Arkham's Astrolabe, turn 2 pass, and they go like burning tree creature, attack you for 2, and then I'm just like, okay, at you end your turn I'll gain 12 life, untap, Core Skyfisher, Scred. Like, I think that game's just out of Stompy's reach at that point.
Yeah, it does really buy you the time you need.
That and I was kind of thinking that Burn might make a big appearance again, but I think I thought about that before I thought about like the fact that even Riftwatcher is getting main deck play.
Yeah, that's a good point that you already have the Rift Watchers, that it might be a little bit.
And I have 3 Lone Missionaries as well.
Yeah, I think it's one card too many.
Lone Missionary also does very, very well. So yeah, I could probably shave like a Lone Missionary and an artifact removal spell, or I could just shave the Weather of the Storm. So like cut the Weather of the Storm and the Shenanigans.
And just get
probably like the best cut in this deck because I don't abuse my graveyard at all. I don't have any delve cards.
Yeah. And
I have a magmatic sinkhole, but I cut that really fast because Scred is just insane in this deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you just don't need it. Like, you're just killing all their things. So, all right. Well, that's what I've been playing, and I actually really have enjoyed this deck. This is one of the funnest decks that I've ever played in this format. But
I honestly want to say that mine is not quite. I haven't been like having a blast with it. I have fun winning, and
we've been doing a lot of that with.
I've been definitely winning a lot with this deck. So it's just my Astroboros deck, and I'll run through it. There's an entire video up. I've probably said that like 10 times, but it has 20 lands. It's got 2 Ancient Dens, 2 Ash Barrens, 3 Evolving Wilds. It doesn't have any Terramorphic Expanses to tilt Brandon, because he likes it when there's a split in the deck. It has 3 Great Furnaces, 5 Snow-Covered Mountains, and 5 Plains. Or Snow-Covered Plains. I can't go above 2 Ash Barrens myself.
So the secret is that it actually does tilt me. But the EV that I get from tilting Sean, or believing that I'm tilting Sean, is worth me being tilted.
Trying so hard. It's not going to happen. I do run 8 artifacts. I run 4 Arkham's Astrolabe, 4 Prophetic Prism, and then I have 17 creatures, 4 Glinthawks, 4 Thraben Inspectors, 4 Core Skyfisher, 4 Seeker of the Way, and a single Palace Sentinels. The creature package is just like, I think, default. Like, I built this deck of just like, what do I think would be the most default? Just like, oh, of course. Yep. Like, I'm not surprised by any of the picks here. And this is where I ended up. I'm confident in all of these creatures. The single Palace Sentinels just wins you games. Like, you become the Monarch, and that's your way out of the game. Very, very aggressive creature package. I have 13 instants. I have 4 Galvanic Blasts, 4 Lightning Bolts, 4 Searing Blazes, and a Prismatic Strands. So just a huge amount of burn here for clearing a path, interrupting whatever weird shenanigans.
8 points of burn.
Yeah.
To be exact, right? 4 Galvanic Blast is 16. No, it's 40. Because, 40 points of burn.
Yeah,
right? 12 is 24, plus 16 is 40. Yeah. So you can kill your opponents twice over without attacking them once.
Yeah, like you're just pecking in with flyers pretty often, and then all of a sudden you just turn the corner when they're at like 10, 12, somewhere in there, and just like get you, or clear path, and just like, I'll take the safe route and just peck you. Prismatic Strands, I feel like, is good in the mirror. Very much have wanted to get rid of it. There's been entire tournaments where I just don't ever feel happy having that card to my deck. I think I also have 2 Battle Screeches just to round out the main deck, and that card I also have like went entire tournaments where I wasn't happy with it. But
my version of this deck is the exact same, but I have Firebolt over Prismatic Strands, because I have not liked Prismatic Strands at all.
Yeah,
either recently.
It won me a single game against Boggles. They won best out of 3, but I don't know. That was just my most recent league. Like, I was trying to think of all the notable things that it did, and that's really it. I guess I played against Stompy, and it was like okay, but it's not like where people are like, no, but it can be like a 3-for-1 where you block all your opponent's creatures. That just never ever happens for me.
Yeah, like the best thing that ever happens with this card is you block with Seeker of the Way and are able to flash this back.
Yeah.
Or like just cast it or whatever. But I don't know. I like being aggressive. Very, very aggressive. And this card feels like it's dead a lot.
Between the Strands and the Battle Screechers, I think I'm looking for another card for those slots, but I'm not happy with anything right now. So I might just end up going to like a Faithless Looting or something like that.
Mole Drifters.
Since I want to be aggressive, I'm afraid to add the extra little bit of color, just so that I'm not like playing an island and then just being like, Searing Blaze.
I think that there is something to be said for the consistency of this deck.
Oh yeah, it is crazy consistent. Brandon and I just came up with this list like after the last show. Was it the last show? It was a few shows ago. Just
Yeah,
like, okay, if we were building a list that was like the best list, what would it be? And it was pretty much this. You didn't end up liking the Searing Blazes, and I ended up loving the Searing Blazes.
yeah. I found that the Searing Blazes almost felt. I don't want to say win more. I can't think of anything else to say. It just felt like they were inconsistent. It was like sometimes they were killing creatures and sometimes they weren't, and sometimes I was left with like weird decisions of like,
Play my land or not.
I only have a two lander and they didn't play a creature, and I have this Searing Blaze in my hand, so well I'm obviously going to play my second land, but like, now I've got to like find another land. Yeah, and then it also just puts you into like late game, like, okay, am I going to play my fourth land or whatever so I can double spell, or am I going to wait for them to have a creature? Or am I cracking this at their end step, my fetch land, or am I saving this until I can have a landfall target or whatever? I just felt that it like created a lot of decision trees that just didn't need to be there. Like you could just have
Yeah.
other removal in your deck. But
If
that said, like the games where you just like your opponent's just like derpy creature, and you're just like, sack my fetch land, Searing Blaze it, take that, hit you with my two guys. All of a sudden, you're at 12 out of nowhere. Blast, blast, blast.
yeah.
Like it just gives you like the nuts. When you
Mhm.
like have good Searing Blaze draws, you're unbeatable. But it felt like a lot of times too, you had like really awkward Searing Blaze draws that made things like opened up a lot of decision trees that could help or hinder you depending on what route you took.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I've had the same experience. I just know that that's like the cost of the really great games with Searing Blaze, and the most on fire streaks I've been on have just been like, oh, Searing Blaze just keeps popping up and it's in the perfect time, and
Yeah.
I can't
That
I can't
yeah.
quit that.
That said, I would definitely keep the Searing Blazes in your deck.
Hmm.
I like them a lot. I'm not super high on Journey to Nowhere right now.
I really am bad. I don't like Journey to Nowhere right now.
I can't
Yeah.
really tell you why I feel
Well, it's
that
just the
way.
caliber of creature that you're getting rid of. And it's 2 mana. There's just so many options for 1 mana removal spells when you're playing Arkham's Astrolabe and you have access to red.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Like, I don't know. Do I feel great about casting Journey to Nowhere on a Core Sky Fisher? Not really. Do I
Hmm.
feel better about casting Searing Blaze? Definitely.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
Or like
the Searing Blaze is.
Journey their Mole Drifter. Ugh, but like Searing Blaze their Mole Drifter in response to their Ephemerate feels good.
Like, yeah, the deck. If you're gonna be more aggressive, you have to figure out how to be more aggressive, and it's a little bit of a risk, but I take it and I like it. For my sideboard, I have 2 Electricities, 1 Gorilla Shaman, 3 Pyroblasts, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 2 Lone Missionaries, 2 Standard Bearers, and 3 Molten Rains. I'll just start at the top. Electricity, of course. Gorilla Shamans, I've been seeing a lot of affinity as well, like you said earlier, and I just wanted to be prepared for that. So I just ran with Gorilla Shaman as just like, it's good early, it's good late. It demands that they have an answer. I
Yeah.
don't feel horrible blowing up an Astrolabe with it. So I think it's got enough modes that a single slot can just get you your match win rate up.
Yeah.
Um,
My problem with the Gorilla Shaman is it's so hard to kill the creatures, but your deck is so much more full of removal than mine that Gorilla Shaman is better for you because you're going to have those games where you play it on turn one, and then Affinity doesn't get to play lands anymore, and you win that way. Whereas, like in my deck, if I could draw Gorilla Shaman like late and like, oh, okay, I blow up your random lands, and they're like, I already have a bunch of 4/4s in play that you're trying to deal with, and so that's why I went with more better catch-all removal because I
Ancient Grudge
lack
that can get there.
grudge because I lack all the removal. Like you can handle Mer Enforcers, like you just Galvanic Blast, and so Gorilla Shaman has such high payoff for you if you can play it on turn one.
Okay.
I think it's definitely worth playing in your deck, but I would not play Gorilla Shaman in my sideboard right now.
This is actually fun, like comparing and contrasting like the different styles of Astroboros. At the end of this episode here,
it is interesting.
Or Astro whatever.
The amount of archetype diversity there is within Astro decks, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, I've
I've
heard people saying it's too consistent and stuff already,
yeah.
But it's just such a general use card that, of course, it's gonna be used a whole lot since like almost everybody can play it. It's like the Glint Hawk 3-bin Inspector part that I think is like not Glint Hawk Core Skyfisher part.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the problem, is that the decks are starting with 8 cards. Like every deck list just has 4 Core Skyfishers, 4 Arcum's Astrolabes, right? And it's sort of like homogenizing everything to like, you start with those 8 cards. Well, it's even like you talked about with like your creature package. Like this is just the obvious stock creature package, and it's sort of the same in my deck. You know, like what's the most powerful blue creature? It's Moldrifter. You know, what's the most powerful? You know, Seeker of the Way is the next best white creature, so I'm playing that. And so like all these decks are starting to homogenize towards like this package of like 8 to 12 to 16 cards that like this starts my deck, and then we're arguing like the semantics of like which archetype makes best use of Gorilla Shaman. And it's like, at the end of the day, really diversity? Probably not. Even though I think it's really fun to talk about, and I think it's really cool that we have that in the format for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be good long term.
No. Well, I really want to give the meta time to adjust before I say anything about a ban, so I'm not really... Huh? Ban it. I did want to bring up, I played against Carves. I played against Carves in a...
Yeah, I've lost it.
So what he was playing was this Boggles deck that had Astrohawk package. Like, he just mashed them together, and I lost. I was playing this exact deck, and I lost against that. Like, it was pretty amazing. And then I followed that up with playing against somebody else. I'm not going to look for it, but they were playing, like, fairies, like Astro Fairies with Ephemerate. And so it's just like, when that archetype is just bleeding into other ones at the level that it is, that's kind of crazy. But...
yeah, when there's just... Well, I even take this as you will, because, you know, the player who was doing it is known for silly things in our meta. But last week, or not last week, but the week before, I was able to make it down to Oasis Games for their Tuesday Night Popper, and he was playing Arcum's Astrolabe in his Elves deck.
For what?
He
oh
was
my gosh.
Splashing a bunch of crazy stuff in there.
That's pretty funny. Rest of my sideboard, the 3 Pyroblasts are good against Tron, good against the counterspell decks, good against the Moldrifter versions of this deck that like just stop your counterspell, stop whatever kind of Moldrifter crap. I think 3 is the perfect number. I've got 2 relics for the Tron matchup, and you know, anything else like Tortured Existence. I do even think that it's good against Skred Delver, since Skred Delver is playing Accumulated Knowledge as well as Stormbound Geist that both cause me problems. So relics are solid. I've got 2 Lone Missionaries for burn and like things like Red Deck Wins, just to bring my curve down when I need to and buy me some more time. And then I've got 2 Standard Bearers. It makes the Stompy matchup better. It makes Elves marginally better. And then against Boggles, where I don't have any enchantment hate at all in my sideboard, this is the only thing I have, and I'm just like, okay, well, I just have to get out a little bit sooner, play this early. I'm not going to play catch-up. If I'm playing catch-up, I'm just dead, so I'm just going to go with these Standard Bearers. And then I have 3 Molten Rains. Any deck that I can put in the Molten Rain against and feel good about it, I will. And since I'm so aggressive, this deck capitalizes on it, and I love it.
Molten Rain is definitely a card I miss. in my sideboard, and I've thought about putting it in, but I just don't know. I don't think my deck's consistent enough to get double red when Molten Rain would be impactful that I've not included it in my sideboard, but
Yeah, I think it's off plan.
about Boros being able to play Molten Rain. Cards gas.
That's so good. I sometimes I wish I had 4 in here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the problems with my deck is I'm particularly weak to Tron. I don't have a lot of aggression to get them with that. I don't have a lot of great sideboard plans for them. I can do like the relics and the pyroblasts. I guess the spells, but
yeah, I'm actually 4-1 against Tron.
Tron on a fair angle. Well, I think that you having 40 points of burn in your deck makes you good against Tron.
I guess. No, it's a really good matchup for my deck.
I have 2 lightning bolts. Like, I'm not burning Tron out. I'm probably not attacking them enough before they get like rest in peace loops going. So I think that is like one of the big problems with these Jeskai or slower, more mid-rangey Astrolabe decks is they are really weak to Tron. And Tron has gotten a lot of great tools. They've got the Astrolabe themselves. Weather the Storm in that deck is insane.
Yeesh,
it just makes trying to race them impossible.
But I think we should wrap it up there.
End times.
Thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode of Common Knowledge. If you like the show and would love to find a way to give back, you can do so at patreon.com/common knowledge. There you're going to get access to all of our great Patreon perks, the Common Coliseum, as well as be eligible for our Card of the Week drawing. Also available at the Patreon page is our spreadsheet that Sean keeps with all of the power rankings from past months. That is available to every listener. So even if you're not a patron, you can find that there. Thank you to our sponsors, puremtgo.com. Thank you to our sponsors, puremtgo.com and inkgaming.com. Use that coupon code CCMTG10 to get yourself a 10% discount on all Inked gaming supplies and accessories. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube. Hit up the Constructive Criticism YouTube page for all sorts of amazing Magic the Gathering content. And if you're watching us on YouTube now, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe and all that other fun YouTube stuff. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you could do so at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. Submit all of your questions, comments, concerns, whatever it is. We love getting listener emails. And lastly, if you'd like to find the show on Twitter, you can do so at CK Podcast MTG. We're also on Facebook. We've got an awesome group. Just search for Common Knowledge. You can find that there. You can find me on Twitter at bclark_CK. And Sean, if the lovely listeners would like to find you, where can they do so?
They can find me on Twitter at Lobbert8. That is LOBBERT and the number 8. They can also find me on YouTube if they just search for Lobbert, where I have, separate from the podcast, a whole bunch of my own videos where I play through brews and decks that I think are good or I'm testing when I have time. That's all we have, so have a good week.
Bye forever.